I'm doing well. It was we just got done with the players just a little bit ago, and defensively, it was certainly good for us to get 3 players back. And with Kiki and Carlos and Bradley, and having those guys back in, they're able to get back into their roles. And I think that's one of the things we talked about, as far as a role goes, of taking it as far as you can, whatever that role is. And some of those opportunities are different for different people, and I think that's more ways that you can contribute. And now that we're in and you have some roles to go, I think it's a big deal. In fact, I called one of my friends this morning. I was thinking about Udonis Haslem when I was driving in and I spoke to Eric Spoelstra, and what made him so special for 20 years into this role. He said, well, one, he was probably one of the toughest and meanest defenders in the league, but he also had said he also wants to help everyone be at their best. And I went on to say, like last year, I think he had played in like one game, 2 points, and gotten thrown out. But when you talk about respect and like their forever captain of what he stands for, I said, there's all sorts of ways that you can impact the team. And that's one of the good parts about being here, with Mike, to say you can take it as far as you can. There's no limit about what you can do and where your role can be. And so we just discussed that for a bit and what it can mean and where you take it from here, because we got a lot to work on for sure. And we're going to work our asses off to get there, and lots to do for this week. And but I like the improvement. Our tackling improved. We made a big emphasis on that, and it's all that come to life. So lots more to work on, but I like the energy and the effort of where the guys are at.
In our weekly question of how well is Trayvon playing, can you just talk about him a little bit more, and just kind of the juncture of confidence and study that allows you to kind of feed into your talent? Right.
And I think one of the things that was remarkable about for him, he really had a tough week. He was battling with pink eye on both of them. You see him, there's like just gunk and nastiness flowing out of his eyes, and big shade on at practice, and just going and battling and getting ready, knowing that he needed the reps. But I think it really shows this is a true competitor. And, to go for the ball skills, to go finish it out. And it would have been easy for him just to back away and say, I got to get this right. You feel like you're wanting to scratch your eyes out. And I thought that showed a lot, for him just to battle it through. And so I certainly been impressed. But where does it come from? He's quiet by nature, but I would say don't confuse that quiet demeanor. This is a true wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, this guy is a rare competitor, and I love the way he goes after it and battles. And he's got some excellent players to go against in practice. So if you want to really test yourself, look no further than our own practice field. And he's definitely, usually up for that challenge as it goes through.
The competitive is one thing, but the ball skills and the ability to catch the ball. Yep. That seems like that's off the charts for him.
It does. And you want to have good ball skills, and then there's guys who have excellent ball skills, and he falls under that category. And when it goes up, do you attack it like you're going to catch it, or do you go up to defend it? He goes up like he's going to get it.
What stands out to you about his ball tracking ability?
I think he can, playing DB, it's hard because sometimes you just have to play the flash of the ball. In other words, you're playing on the receiver, and he and I are running down the field together, and as he looks up, you're working through his hands, or, just catching the very, last little bit. And so the elite receivers can do that, where they don't have to just look at the ball. I can certainly remember, many times in practice with Julio Jones, the ball would be here, and he'd put his head down and start digging again, and then go get it. And it was always so remarkable for me to see that. I hadn't, usually you see a guy just running and looking at it and diving, and he would say, nope, I got to go a little further, and then look back. And so having those kind of ball skills where you know where it is, where to track it, where it's going to be, that's a whole nother level. And I'd love to say we've been really coaching Trayvon up on that, but that would be a lot of bullshit, okay? So, I'd love to. What I can say, is this is a rare competitor who really works hard at his game. And the little of the details to get right, he really works hard at that spot, because there's one thing about being bold, and then there's another thing about, taking a chance where that's not the right time to do that. And you have to have some latitude to know and trust the person to say, hey, I trust this player to make the right decision in the moment, and we certainly do trust him.
What was your first impression of him after taking the job? Was it a lot of these things that you're talking about now, or did you see that early on?
I think I saw it early on, the ball skills, the tracking. What I did see, one of the areas from an improvement from 20 to 21, and I'm not comparing, but I thought he's an excellent tackler as well. And so when you see him, the crack happens. He's got space against a runner or a receiver. So for him in the short area, the tackling, I certainly was impressed by that. But I would say just overall, just his knowledge, like those are things. This is a player going into his second year. And so he's making that jump that you hope players do, going from year 1 to year 2, and that acceleration that takes place. Not all the time, but most often this is when the biggest jump, and then another one from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. But when you get to a new space and how do I take it further, I think he's doing that.
Do you have a boxing analogy why it's so hard to win in Foxborough?
No, they got an exceptional team and exceptional coaches. They do a lot right. And so the teams that generally do a lot right are hard to beat. They're good fundamentals. They take care of the ball. They play well situationally. So they've just always been, exceptionally well coached.
Have you ever, I don't know if you ever get over losing the Super Bowl, but the way you lost.
No, I can answer that for you.
And then the next year you had a chance and you didn't win. So is this like more motivation for you to say, I got to beat these guys?
No, different team, and like my role here is to help the players play as well as we can get. So make no mistake, this is not me and that. This is me just helping us be as good as we can be, and we'll have our handfuls. They've got good group that are playing well, and we'll go up there and we will fight.
Dan, what are you seeing from Vander Esch?
I think the tackling, improvement is what I've seen, the biggest space for him, and I think you probably saw that in the game. On early one with Saquon, we knew how good he is at jump cut and spinning, and so the wrap for him, there's another one down by the goal line. So I think over the last 2 games is probably when we've seen him so far at his best this season, and I've really been impressed by what I've seen over the last 2 weeks.
What is it about goal line that's where you wanted to kind of start to reel off with that opportunity yesterday?
Well, it was really just, like he's been a backup into that spot. And so we moved Micah to the inside spot and moved him there. But with Kiki out, he was one that was getting some reps at one of the outside backer spots. So we've got a couple of packages that he's been involved in. And so sometimes they come up and sometimes they don't. But he's ready for the moment for sure. He's a guy who prepares hard, works at it hard. And he's another one, like of those roles, how are we trying to, develop him? Some of it's on special teams. Now we're hitting to the goal line. And as the season goes, I'm sure there'll be some spaces for him on some third downs as well.
Talk about his ability to diagnose what was going on and then the speed to get to the edge to make the play.
Right, on that particular play, it's as he was the edge of the defense, he's got flat, that he would have to control and certain coverage responsibilities. But at the end, I thought he and Chauncey both did a good job, when this is a quarterback that can really run in Jones. So knowing that he had Chauncey's help inside, he could really take a strong angle and make a strong tackle. And all the preparation during the week, we talked about the space players for them, and we counted the quarterback as one who can make a lot of plays in space. He's been super effective down in the red zone on quarterback draws and zone reads. So for us having that play down there, that was a big one for us. We thought we'd have a chance 2 times in the game on some 4th downs, right, at the 1-yard line, and so you really love those moments, and so not to deliver on that 4th down play in the goal line was certainly a bummer for us.
Micah's snaps these past couple weeks have been high. His work predominantly at linebacker, but his rushes yesterday were relatively low for him. Given he's so effective in that area, how do you determine how much to use him there relative to the game plan and his skill set and balancing it all out? Yeah, well, I think that's the question of, when do we blitz him? How do we use him into that space? Sometimes you want to blitz where he can get matched up on backs when you can, but having his speed behind the ball is a big deal too. And for a team like the Giants, who are balanced in their run game, that you wanted to make sure we had enough not only to play man-to-man when they empty the backfield out, with Saquon, but also in the run game. And so when the game changes, some due to their injuries, some of the packages and stuff that we would normally have done maybe have changed too.
How much changed when they have, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Randy was, again, highly effective as a rusher. What did you see out of his outing yesterday?
Yeah, I really think the last 3 weeks, it's been really consistently good. He just stays relentless. And We've played him outside, we've played him inside, and you guys have seen that. And so that takes work, to study both things, the packages to go. So it's a lot of extra to study and to learn, but he's up for it. And I just feel like over the last 3 weeks, he's been one of our most consistent players, just relentless and staying with it. And again, the Carolina game, he had more production, but I thought in the Philadelphia and the game yesterday, he was just as relentless. And so sometimes it'll come your way and sometimes it won't, but I've certainly been impressed by where he's at so far.
Did his pressure, do you think, contributed to Anthony's pick six at the end, where after all the pressure over the
Yep.
course of the game, quarterback felt it?
I definitely think that's the cumulative effect. And so do you have to throw a pass, prior to when you want to, or if you can move a person off the spot? And having chances to do that, he gives us that. And so I've certainly been impressed by him. And then having the inside rotation with Osa and Chauncey, and it was good getting Carlos back. So having some guys back into some roles has certainly been good for us.
How much changed about your scheme yesterday when they lose Saquon, then they lose Jones, and they lose Galladay? Or did they kind of stay true to what they had done?
They really did, and I think they showed a lot of toughness. When you lose some people in a game and they just kept battling, fighting for it. I think it shows a lot to Jason and Joe and what they stand for as a group. Because when you get out of that group, all of a sudden now there's, instead of 3 wide receivers on the field, 2 tight ends, splitting one out like a wide receiver. And in-game injuries are sometimes harder to deal with than ones where you have the week to prepare. Rich is going to be in, or Dan's going to be in. When it happens in-game, that's a big difference. But I would say a lot of it stayed the same, maybe with the exception of some of the zone read option run game.
We ask you guys as coaches a lot about year 1 versus year 2. How do you see the cornerback position in particular on that in terms of maybe some of the other spots in defense and how much of a jump you can see from a guy year 1 to year 2 versus, say, a lineman or linebacker or safety?
You know what? I think it's true at almost all the spots. I wouldn't necessarily say it's just for that. Sometimes you can play outside at corner earlier, just based on your natural speed or athleticism. But that said, there still comes the finer points in the game. This receiver has this release. He works this part at the top of the route. And so that you need time and experience to go through and how to study and what to look for. You've probably heard me say there's a big difference between watching film and studying film. And watching is, okay, I'm like watching the Monday night game tonight and you're having a beer and hanging out, or studying to say, what does that split look like? What if he's at the top of the numbers? What if I'm off? What if I'm on? And taking notes about who you're playing against, that's a big difference. And so we talk about that a lot, the difference between studying film and watching it.
How do you balance the practice time devoted to fundamentals versus forcing turnovers? And is forcing turnovers the biggest determination you look at as
No,
far as?
I think fundamentals that's king. And I even talked about this recently about, we want to play with maximum speed, at almost a controlled chaos version of that. But that does not mean that your leverage is wrong or you're playing, just out of control, just running. And sometimes a young guy's like, man, I'm just putting out, I'm going hard, and that's good, but there's a lot more to it than that. Because at the end of the game, when the game's on the line, your tank's running a little bit empty, you better have that technique to rely upon. So that, to me, that being a fundamentalist, that's number one. Now, we practice taking the ball away, and we drill it, and we put it part of fundamentals. So I'm hopeful that's just part of our practice routine as opposed to, hey, let's just emphasize this today. It's part of our fundamentals, because if I come at you and just try to go after the ball and as a forced fumble, as opposed to owning my leverage and going into the tackle, well, you're going to get a lot of missed tackles. And so same thing with the balls in the air. What ones can you take a chance on? What ones shouldn't you? And you have to go through that at practice.
So you can't separate the two. It has to be part of the culture of what your identity
Yes,
is.
and I think you have to, what you emphasize is usually what you get. And so we want to talk about the ball on a regular basis, 7 days a week, to make sure that's part of it, but not the only thing. And that's why I think we're going to continue to make strides. I like our speed. I like our energy. Our tackling improved in this last game. That said, there's still, to me, a huge jump that we are going to make. Just more time on task, more reps together, more play time together. And we're still going to be adding some players into this group as we move forward over the next few weeks. And I'm looking forward to that as well.
Mike was asked about how you went about installing the scheme, and he said there were times where if players didn't like it or it wasn't working, y'all would throw it out, and if it was working, let's keep getting better at it.
Did you say Mike or Micah?
Micah Parsons.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I was like, yeah, I
here.
definitely don't remember Mike McCarthy saying that, right? Okay, that's why it threw me off. Micah, okay.
Yes, Micah Parsons was saying that. How do you feel like, how did you balance playing to your players' strengths and listening to what they wanted versus pushing them the past several weeks, and why do you think it's been so
I
effective?
think it's important first from the coaches to say, learning the players and finding out some of the things they do best. One of my least favorite things is to hear about what a player can't do. And that's easy to nitpick and find this or find that, and like in our whole society of judging everything or this, but like finding what guys can do and then accentuate that as hard as we can. And I'm not saying you don't work on your weaknesses, but if there are certain things that a guy can do, you want to find ways to utilize that. And so I think what Mike is probably referring to on that one, if a call's not game ready and we're not featuring somebody in the things that they can do, then I just won't use it. And after you go into a plan, one of my friends who was a Special Forces operator said, no plan survives first contact, and so you have to adjust, you have to be ready to go. And there's been games where we went in with one idea, but a team was trying to attack in another way. And as opposed to just being stubborn, we say, okay, this one is out, and away we go. There was an example on not this past Saturday, but the previous Saturday practice where a player, hey, Dan, can we repeat that one? I said, no need, it's out. And so that was me saying, I'm not going to repeat a play on a Saturday to see if we can get it right. There's too much at stake, too much at hand for us to do that. And so if it's not game ready, doesn't mean we're not working on things this week and next week that maybe we play against New England, maybe we play it in the game after that. But until it's game ready, sometimes you just got to keep stirring it and getting it right.
I imagine you don't want to mention which player it was, but could you tell us what kind of situation that was in?
It was just it was a blitz that we had, and there was a certain coverage that came along with that, and we just didn't quite nail it. And I just said, hey, no need, man, that one's not game ready. We're going to keep it in the package, but it's not up for this game.
Anthony Brown's a fourth quarter drop last week away from having an interception in 3 straight games. But what sort of level do you feel he's playing, and overall maybe speak to his presence in that room as the relative veteran?
One of the things that I really admire about AB is his consistency, and that's sometimes not the sexiest word, being consistent over and over and over again. In this game, some teams want to attack us by doing double moves, fake like it's going to go and then try and throw in deep, and he just really stayed disciplined on that. There's a time as a corner, okay, I'll go bite on it, and think this was, and that's when they throw it over your head. And I think one of the things I really admire about him, he stays consistent, and so that was a cool moment for him to be the closer, so to speak, in that game, where here's your moment, here's where your time, go take your shot, and he did. And like I said, I really respect his consistency. He just, every day he's the same, and that's a fun person to coach because you know what you're going to get on a regular.
You've competed against Mike McCarthy in different spots in your career. Now that you've been around him for 9 months, what have you learned about him and how he operates?
I've learned a ton. I don't know if we'd have enough time to say what he's shared with me over the last 6 or 8 months, but offensive philosophy, game management scenarios, things that would come up, like he's got recall of plays and people and games. And so oftentimes I'll go to him and say, what do you think in this moment? Or what do you think in this scenario? What else could, this happen? So yeah, he's taught me an incredible amount in a short time.
How does he have a read of the room and where guys are physically, emotionally, coming week to week when thing are riding high or when things aren't going well?
Yeah, I think that's, kind of one of his, superpowers is he's a really consistent person. And so he doesn't ride the wave. So I think he can see when others are and say, man, let's keep this thing right in the middle. But he has a good connection with the players. He's direct in his communication. And I think as a ball player, as a coach, that's what you want, man. Like, give it to us straight of what we need and how we're going to go about winning. And he's very clear on that.
And when you talk about riding the wave, is that something from your perspective that can be learned, or is it something you either have or you don't as a person?
That's a great question. I would say I think you can learn that. but you probably have to go through it to know that, man, I don't want to have that inconsistency. You have to be, especially when you're the leader, of the team, to say, man, this is how we're going to go about it. And if they see you falter or behave differently, after a circumstance, then they know, okay, that can rattle him. And this is one rock solid, straightforward leader that we all respect.
There's some chippiness during that game yesterday.
I love that word, chippiness. Right? If you've been in an NFL game, it ain't chippy. It's violent. It's nasty. It's gross. It's like people all, but chippy is what it's called. I agree.
Is that something over the course of the season, as you guys continue to stack wins and have the sort of success that you all want, that you can expect opponents, while frustrated, to add that extra chippiness? And then how do you coach how to handle that?
Yeah, I think we all know it takes a lot more discipline to walk away and to unclench your fist than to clench it. And that's not always easy to do in that environment, in that spot. But that's the reality, and that's what we need. Usually is the second person that gets most affected in that case. So we want to play physical. We just want to do it right within the rules and walk right on the edge of that physicality. But as far as post-snap stuff, we don't need any of that. Let's play our style and our attitude within the whistle. But post-snap, hey, let's get up and line up and go do it again.
Dan, some of the players were talking about the mental. Some of the players were talking about the mental conditioning aspect to the state program on Friday and how it's helped them get their minds right for the game.
Yep.
How have you seen players respond to that, and what do you think it adds to them?
Yeah, I think Chad, just for me, I know his background. I was certainly close with Trevor, who, Chad worked with years ago, and so I understand his approach. But I think what's so unique about this program is oftentimes mental conditioning can be just one-on-one or one-on-some, meaning a small group. So having the ability to connect the entire team to do that, and I think that's one of the special parts of our team right now. There's this connection between the offense, special teams, defense, special teams, offense to defense, player to player. And when you have that kind of connection, that's usually when the good things can take place. I like where they're at, their attitude, their mindset, and I think having a strong mental game will allow you to do that, just like working out does, just like you have to train your mind to be that way. And the better you play, the stronger you better be with your mental performance. And I certainly anticipate us improving as we're going in both ways, mentally and physically. All right, you guys have a good one.
Thank you.
What's up?
I think yesterday was the first time in 38 years Cowboys offense had had 300 passing and 200 rushing. Can you just speak to the difficulty of doing that and what it says about where this group is at the moment?
Just found out about that. Realized the ramifications, I guess. Yeah, our guys did a really excellent job. Really balanced attack, having the ability to throw and pass at the same time. Obviously starts up front, handled it really well up front, was able to get the run game going. And obviously the explosive passes came off that as the game went on, and I felt like our guys were in a really good place.
The tempo was maybe most aggressive at the very start of the game for you guys. What went into that sort of approach to begin the game?
Early in the game, just felt like we had a good opportunity just to mix the tempo. And as the game goes, there's times where maybe we'll crank back into the tempo. At times we'll slow it back down. And we just kind of play that game. Ultimately, probably used it more in the first half, and particularly that first quarter. We had a lot of plays in the first quarter, and then as those games go on, you got to kind of have the flow of the game. Is defense out there a lot? When do we want to reapply the tempo? And so you're always kind of playing that balancing act, I think, and understand the pulse of the game.
What was the thinking specifically for that first quarter approach? Why push so hard?
We just felt like we had a really good opportunity. We felt very comfortable with the plays that we were going to run with some tempo, and wanted to get after it.
Back on the yardage thing, I think it was 3 straight weeks you'd averaged 201 rushing. You hit that number exactly yesterday. I mean, what is it about this running game that's made it so effective through this stretch?
I think the run game really starts with the players. The offense line, they're coming off the ball. They're being really aggressive. They're playing and very confident. And our runners are really doing a phenomenal job having patience when they need patience to kind of set up blocks. And then at the other, in another sense, when it is time to hit it, they hit it. And we always talk about it takes all 11. The receivers are a part of this thing, the tight ends, the quarterback booting. Everyone's putting their piece into it.
Go with Zeke since he got here. Is he running more with physicality than you've ever seen him, or when he first got here?
That'd be a tough answer. I don't know. Have to study that pretty thoroughly, but I think he's in a really, really good place right now. I could say right now he is awesome. He's playing great football, and we're fired up.
I don't want to suggest anything about it is easy, but when the run game is clicking like that, does it make your job as a play caller easier?
Running the football is an important aspect of this game. You don't always have to do it all the time. There's times where, hey, you don't have to establish the run or any of those things. But when you do have the ability to run it, and you're getting, at one point I think we're averaging about 7 yards a carry, it makes football a whole lot easier, and it certainly allows you to play off of that. When you can run the football and then do all the things that you can run off of that, I think we're in a really good place with it.
There's a play early in the game where the defender grabs Dak's legs and Dak manages to throw the ball out of bounds nonetheless. What kind of athleticism and game awareness does it take to avoid the sack there? And how do you coach that?
You don't coach it. Second, I think it takes tremendous strength to be able to stand in the pocket like that. Obviously, for him to be able to stay up, first of all, but also to be willing to stay in there and find a way to throw the ball away. Those are huge plays when you're able to throw away. Sometimes those are the biggest positive plays that a quarterback can have in a game, and most people think of them just silly, irrelevant plays. But avoiding a sack, throwing it away, sometimes those are plus plays, and the quarterback's grade, and those are one of them.
Can you go back to tempo for a second? How much do you have to really be in sync with Dak to say, all right, let's pick it up here, or maybe slow it down?
Yeah, I think we're trying to always find our places when to apply it. You got to have a sense of where our team's at and also where the other team's at. And, there's going to be certain plays in the game plan that we feel like we want to use the tempo to utilize these plays. And there's other times where, based off the game plan, based off a defense look, maybe it's not presenting itself as favorably. And we want to be able to be that versatile that we can play in and out of it throughout the game.
A Bill Belichick defense has earned the reputation of kind of making an offense play left-handed, take away what they do best.
I'm lefty. I'm okay. Always hating on the lefties. Okay.
But as versatile as you guys have proven to be over the first 5 games, do you feel as well equipped as you could be for that challenge?
this game will be a tremendous challenge. They'll do a tremendous job preparing for us. They'll make it difficult on us. We got a big week ahead of us to prepare for this game, and this will be a big challenge going on the road to play a team like this. Really well coached, really good players. They know their system very well. They know how to make adjustments within the game, and so from our standpoint, we're going to need to prepare really well, but also understand that adjustment football may apply to this game, and we're going to have to be ready.
Is this among the hardest games to prepare for? Because you hear people say what they show one week, they're not going to do the next week, and think they just seem to have a Rolodex of things they can throw out week to week.
Yeah, certainly they can do a lot of football. They are very well coached. They're very sound in what they do. They do a great job of game planning against offenses and taking away strengths. And so as we go through this process, through this week, I think we're going to have to do a really good job of honing in our game plan, feeling very confident, and also understand that adjustments may need to be applied throughout the game, and guys got to be ready to adjust.
Do you ever get caught up in who you're going against? You've been a player, and I mean, now do you look forward to certain matchups like that against coaches who have proven their ability, or are you strictly just looking at the system and you take personality out of it completely?
Well, I think you got to know the defensive approach from a coach's standpoint, understand their history, what they like to do. Everyone's got 5 games in so far. There's a lot of games in previous years that may apply to this, and so you're always trying to find those different wrinkles and different things that you may be able to look for that may apply to this game. But these guys obviously do it, over the course of this long history of the Patriots. They've done it better than anyone else.
You talked a little bit about the challenge of preparing for them, but what do you respect most about Belichick's coaching career overall, and what parts of his coaching, I guess, achievements or success do you want to emulate?
They put their players in the best position to be successful. And I think as a coach, you're always trying to hopefully put your guys in the best situation, and they do that better than anyone. They recognize what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, maybe if there are any, and they plan accordingly, and they put themselves in a really good situation to have success on Sundays. And week in and week out, it can be a different flavor, it can be a different scheme maybe, but they always are prepared, and they always do a really, really good job.
As a play caller, is this a challenge for you, a test for you to look forward to matching wits with Belichick?
This game will be fun. It'll be another one just like a number of these games we've had with different defense coordinators. It's always a challenge each and every week to hopefully put ourselves together with a really good game plan, understand adjustments may need to apply to different games, different situations. But, I think we're really excited about this one.
Nothing more because of Belichick. So, I know it's defense coordinator of the week, but this is...
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's the best coach in NFL history. Obviously, we understand that aspect of it. He's been a defensive guy for a very long time, and a ton of respect for him. And certainly someone that, as a younger coach, you're always learning from these types of coaches who've done it for a long time, have had a ton of success, and you learn through this process.
The touchdown pass that Dak had to Zeke over on the right. How long have you guys put that play in? And did you expect it to kind of work that well? It just doesn't seem like there's touchdowns that are that wide open in the NFL.
The primary target was CD, and they ended up covering CD, and that was kind of the second guy in the process. And we always said keep Zeke alive, because when you fake it to the running back, sometimes they kind of forget about him. And so it happened. He ended up popping, and it was an awesome touchdown.
The relationship that you have with Dak now, how much of that was built through your time with him as a fellow player versus your time as one of his coaches?
Yeah, obviously a unique circumstance to be with the guy, as a player together in the same room, and then obviously transitioning to the coaching aspect. I think in many ways, especially early on, you can relate in many ways, because a lot of things we're asking a quarterback to do. I was fortunate to be in that situation in the same room, being asked to do it from Scott or Wade or Jason at the time, and so hopefully I can relate in that way. And obviously we built a relationship as co-players initially, and it's obviously developed into the coach-player relationship, and have a ton of trust in him, ton of faith. I think we have seen the game in many ways over the course of this number of years together. So we've been able to talk through a lot of things, been in a lot of quarterback rooms. The unique thing I think about a quarterback room is sometimes those impromptu conversations that come up. You're watching a game of an opponent, some situation comes up, a play comes up, and those kind of off-schedule conversations, sometimes those things end up applying in a real game, and you say, holy cow, we were talking about that, and lo and behold, it shows up. It may show up in a couple weeks, but we're always talking those situations, talking football, and I think that's what's awesome about what we have in our quarterback room here right now.
Cedric had a pass, a carry, and a catch yesterday in the game. What's it like preparing for him in the game? And you have a lot of versatile players, but how different is he just generally from the guys you coached?
Ced's a really smart player. I think we've said it a number of times. He knows the whole offense. He's got a unique experience being a quarterback in high school, developing the wide receiver traits, being a returner, so he's very comfortable with the ball out in space and running with it. And so he does a lot of really good things for us, and he's one of those guys that he can apply to a lot of different things, and we continue to try and utilize him as much as we can.
Get a minus for the pass that you said it looked like CD might have had a touchdown.
Yeah, he made up for it with the catch, but we're hoping for the touchdown there. So he was helping out his boy Noah, I guess. So
You've talked to us a few times over the years just about all the different places you draw inspiration from, seeing plays you like. Can you elaborate a little bit on that process and how much time on task between when you see something you like and when you're ready to call it in the game?
Yeah, the time on task kind of varies. We're always trying to collect as much information as we can. At times it's not going to apply maybe for that particular week, but looking at college, looking at NFL, trying to find different resources that we feel like can apply. And a lot of times you're looking at it, there's a lot of stuff in football. All of us have access to it so much easier probably now than ever. And so I think there's a balancing act. There's really cool stuff that you kind of say, hey, that's a really awesome play. I'd love to run that, but we got 2 practice days. We only got so many times to rep it, and so you got to pick and choose your battles a little bit there. But we enjoy it. I think our offensive staff, we really embrace it. The idea that, let's be creative, let's be open-minded. Kyle Valero, Chase Hasley, we kind of have a little fun thing on Mondays where we kind of take a trip around the league, see all the trends that are going on, sometimes dabble in the college world. And so we're always looking for different inspirations and throw them in folders, throw them in cut-up folders, and it may apply 6 weeks down the road. It may not apply this year. It may apply next year. Who really knows? But we're always trying to gather information.
I'm not trying to get you to give it too much away, but just from a layman's perspective, is it realistic that you see something awesome on Monday Night Football tonight and it's in the game plan this week? I mean, is that even? Yeah.
We got Wednesday's practice, Thursday's practice, Friday's a walkthrough, Saturday's one more practice. You'd like to get at least one full speed rep of something and then I think there's always a balancing act. Does it feel similar to something and you can apply it to a very similar concept that we've been doing? Is it a very new broad subject that we need to maybe take some time and get 2 or 3 reps at it? But I think our guys really embrace it, which is the fun part. Sometimes players come up with the ideas, and we want that atmosphere.
Along those lines, you guys had unscattered looks every single game. Is that something that you actively do each game throughout a season? Or if so, how many new looks can you apply into one game? How do you kind of sift through that?
From our perspective, we're given different looks. Yeah. I think we're continuing to try and use as many personnel, create different formations. Again, sound plays that we feel very comfortable with. Obviously, we understand that on the other side of it, the defense has to process those different personnel, process those different plays or formations, and we understand that there's a limited resource throughout the week as far as practice and walkthroughs and those different things. And so sometimes those things may seem very simple to us, and hopefully they apply a little bit more complex to the defense. And so I think there's some value in that. Balancing that out. You don't want to turn into someone that you're not. You don't want to spend all week trying to be the trick 'em team. You got to have a foundation to you. But at the same time, when you have those opportunities to sprinkle some things in there, they're simple plays in our mind, maybe a few flavors each and every week, and defenses have to spend time on them.
What percentage of your work week would you say is devoted to collecting, getting ideas, knowing you may not use them that week, but knowing you'll use them at some point, or maybe you'll spark something else? Is there a percentage you could put on it about how much of it is in your work week?
I would say not a whole lot. Mondays is kind of our day to it's early in the week. We just got done with our game with the Giants. We review that game, watch it. We quickly turn our attention to New England, and at the same time, I think it's important to always see the pulse of this league. This league is very much a copycat league. If you see something, both on offense and defense, I think in many ways. And so if something's happening across the league, maybe it's not in your opponents that you've had the last few weeks, but something maybe, for example, going on in the AFC that, some teams are kind of catching on to a trend. And I think we're always trying to be conscious of making sure we're aware of what's going on. And again, those things may apply this week, they may apply a later week, but you want to see where the league's at and then quickly be able to turn your page to New England.
When Mike came here, obviously he gave up the play call and let you, and allowed you to continue to do that. When he has the success that he's had in that spot in his career and he gives it to you, is that adding pressure to you? And in the second year of you guys together, is there more freedom that he allows you? Does he bounce more things off you? Does he kind of let you go? What's that?
No, obviously, I would say I feel very fortunate to be in the situation I am in. Obviously, Mike's had a ton of success in this league as a head coach and a play caller. He's an awesome resource for me as I go through each and every week to talk through conversations. Hey, what do you think about this situation? What do you think if we, maybe did X, Y, and Z? And we're able to bounce those ideas off together. And I think as this has came into our second year together, I think we're so well aligned as far as our approach and the system and the routine that we take each and every week that we're in a really, really good place, and that applies to the whole offensive staff. I think anytime you're able to have the same staff for a second year together, again, this is the first time I've ever been a part of a staff where it's the same staff, and so this offseason was awesome because we could really start right where we left off and take off from there, and so it's been an awesome process.
What's Nuss like in the quarterback room and just your guys' relationship?
Yeah, Nuss been awesome. Obviously, he was a part of here for a couple years before Mike came here, and so I feel fortunate to have a guy like him in the quarterback room, and he does a tremendous job. He does a lot of work behind the doors, so to speak, with the quarterbacks, just taking their prep each and every day. Just because sometimes I may be doing something here and there, and Nuss does an awesome job. Takes those guys through fundamentals. Takes care of those quarterbacks, and at the same time, huge resource for me as I game plan and we go through this process as an offensive staff, being able to pull nuggets from different places, and he does a really good job.
Tell them that you're 16 when you got off to a good start, and the league didn't really know what to make of your team, and everybody said, well, wait till they go to Green Bay, and wait till they play Pittsburgh. Any similarities between these teams?
It's a great question, and yeah, it's a great process to think about. 16, I think we played well early, and there are certain games that obviously you have a great opportunity to go play a really quality team on the road. Road games are big to have those opportunities against a well-coached team like this. You're playing, there's going to be maybe some weather elements, who knows, you're going up to the Northeast, and I think these are awesome opportunities for us just to take the next step, and we took care of the home 3-game stand. That was big for us, and now we get an opportunity to go on the road, and it'll be big.
How do you think players are responding to the mental conditioning portion on Friday? And did you ever have anything like that when you were a player where it was team mental conditioning as opposed to individual players working on it?
I would say what we have going on Fridays with Chad Bowling is phenomenal. I'm gonna kind of praise Chad a little bit. He's probably gonna hate me for saying this, but I think Chad's the best in the business. Anyone who knows him, he's part of the Yankees and part of our group. He is the best, and I've continued to try and emphasize guys building relationships with him, just because something I kind of you're around the mental aspect of this game and around sports for a long time, but it was really when I got hurt in 16 where I finally kind of realized the importance of this aspect of thing. Going through a challenging situation like that where you're hurt and not able to play, Chad was an awesome resource for me, and he's been an awesome resource all the way through this whole process to today. And he's awesome for our staff, for our players, does a tremendous job of keeping those guys focused, being personal connections for them, but also for our entire team, just to keep the message consistent. Speaking of being neutral, you've probably heard that term a lot this past year with the players. That's a big focus and big credit to Chad.
About his messages or about his ability to listen?
I think both. consistent message and ability to listen to the players and be able to understand that each guy's a little bit different. I think that's one of those things is, I think I've been fortunate to be around some great coaches here with Jason, Mike, and so many others. Understand that each player's a little bit different. You got to understand their triggers. How are they wired? How do they handle success or failure, mistakes or successes? And so I think, Chad's one of those awesome resources that I've been able to, lean on and ask for help. And, how have you applied this situation? How have you handled this thing that may come up in a game and in a practice? And he's been awesome.
What was the most helpful thing he told you in 2016 when you were going through the injury?
That'd be a great question. I would really want to analyze that. I think, he did a tremendous job of understanding this injury thing as a part of the process. A lot of people, they say the NFL injury rate is 100%. If you play in the NFL, everyone's going to get hurt at some point. And he did a great job of understanding. I think Dak handled it in a similar way where there's not a timeline to injury recoveries. And I think everyone always wants to put a timeline to something. It's 2 weeks, it's 4 weeks. Well, injuries are different for everyone. Every body's different. And so not putting a timeline, and most importantly on yourself. Understand that the process is going to take care of itself. You do everything you can, but at the end of the day, when you're ready, you're ready. And sometimes we can all try and say, I'm going to mark a spot, and this is going to be, I'm getting back for this point. Go through the process. Trust the trainers, trust the recovery process. Chad's been awesome for guys who've gone through that process and will continue to be.
All the resources that athletes across different levels of sports have, do you think mental conditioning is an underrepresented resource based on how you've seen it work here?
I completely agree. Everyone understands the weight room aspect, and that's a huge aspect of this thing. Everyone's kind of at that level. I think the mental aspect of this game is becoming more and more important. I think some people are recognizing how important it is. These players go through a lot. There's a lot of pressure on them, whether they want it or not, to handle success, handle failure, handle disappointment, handle the times that go well outside and internally. And so everyone needs this stuff. Everyone needs to understand that this is a very, very important aspect of this thing, and I think guys are really embracing it. Guys are understanding how important it is, willing to be vulnerable in those type of circumstances, which I think is huge. And so I think we're very fortunate to have Chad and different people within this program to help.
Is there a team camaraderie development component to it when, going through this sort of training? It does require some measure of vulnerability. And so for the group to do that collectively, does that in turn bring people closer together, do you feel?
I definitely think so. Going through this process, guys willing to understand that it's okay to talk about challenges in this profession. Everyone's going to go through them, but also talking through handling success too. Doesn't have to be a dealing with failure. You also have to deal with success too. And our guys understand that you got to reset the deal each week, be neutral. We've continued to emphasize, as you guys have probably heard through so many players, the unselfish play, especially on offense. We've continued to, that's our calling card, that guys understand that everyone's going to get opportunities. It's going to take all 11 to help each other out. CD doesn't have a ton of touches the last two games. He gets a handful today, this past game makes a huge difference. And Zeke's going to go through that process. Tampa doesn't get a ton of carries. Understands that eventually he's going to get his opportunities, but you're going to go block and do a tremendous job in the protection game in this game. And we're going to need the receivers to make more plays. And so the guys understand the flow of this thing, that unselfish play, keep chipping away at this thing. Your opportunities are going to come, and while your opportunities aren't there, go help someone else out and let them make plays.
Thank you, Kellen.
Okay. Thanks.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, good, thanks.
You kind of start with an assessment of how you felt you played overall on the special teams yesterday.
Yeah, I think the guys competed really good, and I thought our hamstrings were really good, and that's really a thing, just to see how fast we can run for long distance. So the competition, is picked up, and the young guys are getting better too. So I was excited to see the film, although we had a meeting this morning. There's just a few things to tighten up, just like always.
think it was training camp, you talked to us about cheerleading for guys when they get their opportunity to contribute on offense or defense. What was the week like for Jabril getting that opportunity?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, making that goal line play, and I can't remember how many reps he got, but anytime any of our core special teamers go in there and make a play on ORD, the sideline gets pretty excited for him, including myself. So it was cool to see guys, have one of those roles that make a big play, and we all celebrate them for sure. Not only on the field, but in the meeting room the next day.
What's Ralston done for you the last couple of weeks?
Just about everything. Good question. He, is a guy that kind of came out of nowhere. And training camp, he just became really a reliable, very versatile, play the guard, the tackle, the wing, the 5, the 4, the 3 on kickoff, the front end, the back end on kickoff return. He kind of just found a niche where he proved that he was reliable really wherever you wanted to put him. And with kind of the roster that's been in flux with some of the injuries, some of the COVID, we got him up and we said, hey, you got to play here. And then in the same game, hey, we got to move you over here. So he's just proven to be a versatile piece that has really good football savviness. So it's been cool to see him kind of find a role.
How difficult do these roster decisions get now since he and Sprinkle are out of elevations? How much conversation will there be about that kind of thing in the next couple of days?
There will be a lot, because those guys have been, critical special teams guys for us the first 5 weeks. They've been on the practice squad, so we use them for the practice squad elevation, the COVID replacement, and I think both of those have expired for him. So got to find a way to get them up, and if not, then other guys will step up as part of the special teams roster management that goes into every game.
CJ Goodwin, what jumped out on that one tackle? Was it 61-yard punt, 7-yard return? I'm just curious from your vantage what you did well that stood out.
Yeah, it was really a combination of Cedric Wilson on our left and CJ on our right. And based on their assignments, they both did a great job. I mean, Cedric was the first one there that really turned him back because he was trying to go to the field. And then CJ was a punt side gunner who really made a great tackle. And he got there pretty quick, and that's part of the hamstrings. I know it doesn't seem like a real thing, but keeping our guys' hamstrings pliable and loose is important to run 60 yards at 22 miles per hour. And so that's what I felt during the game. You could feel like our hamstrings were pretty darn good shape. And so Cedric turned it back, CJ made the tackle, and we feel like that's what those guys should do when we punt it that far to him.
What do you think of CD's return there? It's not like he's got a lot of chances to do some things. It's like he did something there.
Yeah, we haven't had many punt return chances as far as getting our hands on the ball with like a real return. We've played, some teams where we had a fair catch, a couple of them, a couple, bad punts have hit the ground. But even that one, the ball hit the ground and he ended up catching it. So he made he made a lot of kind of yardage there on his own, because we brought a little bit of pressure, which I think maybe was one of the reasons why the ball got punted onto the ground. But it was a little bit of a broken play that he extended. We had some guys finish some blocks pretty good, a couple guys that got to finish their blocks a little bit better. But anytime the ball hits the ground, there's a tendency the punt return guys to kind of pull off and make sure they stay away from the football. So it was a very unique play, and I was really excited to see D make an aggressive play on the ball and get some, I think he got 17 yards, almost 2 first downs, put us across the 50, and we converted on offense. So it's part of the good complementary football, and it's great to just get some live ball action in punt return.
Saw you were working with him a little bit before the game. I know you usually do when he's out there returning punts, and I saw you're doing some stuff. You're bouncing the ball off the ground in front of him, different things that he has to work on. Where did you kind of come about doing some of those things? And that obviously isn't something that all the special teams coaches do. Evans, or is it something you've always done? Yeah,
that's cool that you recognize that, first of all, because it comes way early in pregame warm-up. But we kind of developed a routine with those guys when they come out. Not only are they catching it, but I got a little punching glove on, and I'm punching at the football, whether it's high, top down, bottom up. I bounce the ball on the ground. The one he returned was exactly like we practiced in pregame warm-ups. I just throw it on the ground. They got to go high point it, and right when he comes down with it, I boom, and try to punch the football out just to emphasize high point and ball security when you're coming to the ground. Do some stuff where they're going to the ground and try to punch the football out. So we kind of just developed that over the last really couple of years from what we've seen on tape that exposes the football for punt returners. So we just try to get in that mindset to tighten that football up when it's in our hands in different positions.
For all the time you spent in boxing gloves, have you done any formal lessons or training or the sort? Or
No, I did some this past spring with Harold Nash, our strength coach. Me and my assistant, Coach Matt Daniels, we did some, not sparring, but we did just some workout with the gloves on, and you just kind of beat each other up with some bags, and it's a great workout. I do it in practice, and after 6 minutes, I'm gassed. And then during pregame warmups, I don't wear my coaching gear because I'm in a full sweat, so I go back in and change. But boxing is incredible. I know that fight there a couple of days ago was incredible too. But those guys got to be in the best shape of any athletes in the world to be a boxer. I mean, man.
How do you see CD feed off the energy after he has a play like that where he's getting to go compete?
I'm sorry?
How do you see CD feed off his energy, the energy when he gets to go compete on a punt return?
Yeah, I mean, he loves it. He asked for it. And, you make a play like that, I think it kind of just gets the sideline excited, and it warms him up for his offensive reps coming up. It never tires him out, so it's not like it's a punt return, he's got to take a break on first down. It kind of just ramps up the competitive juices, so on first down, I think maybe it helps him out a little bit. But anytime, just a simple play like that, is a good return, not a huge return, just gives a little bit of life, to the sideline, especially if you can get it across the 50 for the offense, and just kind of a simple play like that, just give us just another little bit of shot.
Well, Slater, one of the better special teams guys in the league, just your thoughts on how he's been able to make impact plays there.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's special. He's as good as there's been, at least since I've been in the league. I remember him coming out of UCLA, watching him, and I looked at him as a kickoff returner. He had 3 coming out of UCLA. But his career has been amazing. We talked about him this morning. 13 years in the league. I think he has maybe 5 total receptions, but close to 200 tackles. Was it 9 times in the Pro Bowl? So he's a guy that we've watched a lot of tape on with our young gunners. We have a library, all his work over his career, that's very inspirational, very productive. And they got Justin Bethel on the other side, who's been in some Pro Bowls for special teams. Cody Davis, a safety, Brandon King, Brandon Bolden. They got some real guys, and it'll be a great matchup for us for them. Can't wait.
Is that hard to simulate those types of guys because they are so good?
Yeah. No, because when we practice on Thursday, we go at it pretty good. We got some young guys that they're fighting for that 48-man spot. So there's a couple reps we get on Thursday where it's game speed. We don't get a lot of reps at it, but some of the guys that are on the other side, Robert Foster, Izzy Mukawamu, K Brown. Hey, you're Matt Slater, you're Justin Bethel, let's go, man. So it's fun to see some of the competition on Thursday, and we need that, and I'm looking forward to Sunday a lot already.
What do you make of the day the kickers across the league had yesterday with the missed field goals and PATs? Is that just a product of one bad day for everybody, or how do you look at it?
I mean, I don't know, because they're all in different stadiums, and when it rains, it pours. I don't know. I think there's 12 missed PATs and a couple missed field goals in a couple of games. I don't know how to explain it. It was maybe just one of those weeks. I don't know. But there's a lot of them.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Over the years under Belichick, the Patriots, they seem to really invest on special teams. Like they have a lot of specialist type guys up and down their roster. Is that something that you've noticed? And there are a lot of professional special teamers there.
Yeah, definitely have noticed. Yeah, that's something they've done for a long time. I think in Belichick's whole tenure there, 20 years or whatever, they have some hired guns as the 4th safety, 5th receiver, 5th linebacker, 3rd running back. Those guys are hired guns for special teams, and they're pretty good at it. They work hard at it, and it shows. And so you get a matchup like this, you're ready to compete, especially against guys. Let's face it, human nature. Slater's been in 9 Pro Bowls, Bethel's been in 3. They got veteran guys, and so for our young guys, it's a great test.
Your touchback streak was pushing around 25 before fourth quarter there. Is that, you mentioned that after the things after week 1 or week 2 of just wanting Greg to kind of let it rip and not. Are you still there, or are you more open to variance as it relates to kickoff, depth, and height?
Yeah, I think it maybe varies on the situation, but the last couple of games, my thought has just been let Greg swing. If it's deep, it's deep. If it comes up short, we'll cover it. The 2 return yesterday was about 8 deep, and he had great swing. So I think the last couple of weeks have worked out pretty good for us with him just swinging on kickoff, and he's been producing on PATs and field goals. So I don't anticipate that changing unless the situation dictates, we got to put a ball in play for different reasons.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, guys.
All right, you guys, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.